Welcome, Antoinette McInnes. Okay, so this is third time lucky for us, but we really have done this. This is our third time. So we should be good at our own stories by now, I feel.
Third time lucky, yeah, let's go.
Antoinette,
Louise.
will you please tell us the story of your life and what got your attention?
I'm going to start the story more recently rather than way back, and then go back. I got cancer in 2017, and I got cancer on a very healthy lifestyle, anti-cancer lifestyle, or I thought it was a healthy lifestyle. So cancer became an opportunity. Actually, it saved me. Let's put it this way. Cancer saved me from myself, and it saved me from destruction. And that's only an awareness I have in hindsight. When I got it, of course, I was devastated. But I also went into a state of bliss, which was surprising. And then I looked at why I got it on a healthy lifestyle. And what transpired through a psychoneuroimmunology book actually was it had very much been triggered by the way I was living, by distorted worldviews, faulty belief systems, a very difficult, obstructive, over-analytical mind state, trying to control every aspect of my life, having many coping mechanisms, addictions, avoidances, suppressed emotions. And I can list all these things now, but I honestly didn't know any of it when I got struck with cancer, with the gift of cancer. And because I had a very fast-moving, aggressive cancer, I had to show up to figure out why I got sick, because my belief system has always been, if we can figure out why our bodies get sick, we know where our healing lies, because our bodies don't lie. They show us where something's out of alignment. So the psychoneuroimmunology book, which is a fairly recent science about how the way we operate in the world, how our minds work and our emotions and how we live our lives, low-level anxiety, suppressed emotions, control issues, living a life that's not real for us, but we think is right, toxic thought patterns, all of those things have an extreme effect on the chemistry of our body, on our hormones. And ultimately, almost always, it can take 30 years, but they lead to cancer, autoimmune diseases, diabetes, and heart disease. It's been linked scientifically now up to 80% of diseases, some people are saying, start in the mind or are caused by the mind state. So when I read that book, it was a really big turning point for me, because I knew that's what triggered my cancer, and I knew that's where my healing lay.
I just want to ask you a question here, because from the way that you described everything that was going on inside your mind, it sounds like you were a screwball and your life was a mess, but it's not how it was. How did your life look to everybody from the outside?
Well, the astounding thing, Louise, about my story, and that's why, although I don't have a very dramatic story like other people, my journey is extraordinary, because I only realized recently, actually, 2 years after my cancer, that my so-called perfect life, because I was relatively successful, I had a good business, I was doing a lot of good. I had a business that created employment. I was doing eco-friendly products. I was a social entrepreneur. I was making good money. I lived in a great house with a sea view in a place I loved living. I traveled a lot. I did yoga, meditation, gratitude journals. I was a vegetarian, eating mostly organic food. I was popular. I had a lot of friends. Externally, my life ticked every single success box. I mean, I wasn't hugely successful, but I was doing good. It looked like I had a great life. I looked good. I was always fit. I was always healthy, but not actually. But what I realized when I got cancer, is actually nothing was okay in my life. There was nothing, by the way, there's nothing wrong with living that kind of life. It's a perfectly good life. And I was doing a lot of service. I was helping a lot. I was a good friend to people. But when I got cancer, I had to stop and ask myself what was going on. And I had to throw out every belief system I had, by the way, about food, about spirituality, about everything. Because another book that came my way was Anita Majani's book, Dying to Be Me. And those two books just created a switch in my brain that although I was leading this good life, there were a lot of things that were out of alignment. I had absolutism was a biggie for me. Absolutely do not eat animals. Absolutely cannot have cake because sugar is bad for you. Absolutely have to do this, have to do that. And Bruce Lipton was also another big catalyst in my healing. Dr. Bruce Lipton, he did a clip about cancer and he said absolutism is quite a big cause of cancer. And I was like, and then Anita Majani as well was a vegetarian and living this great life. And she got sick. And one of her insights was it was because of fear, actually. And absolutism only comes about if we are very fearful. I thought it was amazing because I was absolute about all the right things, controlling all the right things, conscious business, healthy eating, eco bunny, and all of those are good things. The problem with me and those things was I was overworking and overachieving to suppress all the stuff that I didn't even know was there. An exceptionally low self-esteem. I mean, bordering on self-hatred, actually. It wasn't just low self-esteem. Feeling so not good enough that I put myself through 3 degrees, including an MBA, all with my own money off my own bat. But I did so many of those things. I was a people pleaser. So everybody liked me. I was popular. But they liked me because I lived behind a veneer of, a coping mechanism of mine was to just be nice in a way that I knew people would like me. I didn't know I was doing that. I was a codependent and a rescuer. So in other words, I was helping a lot, but all for the wrong reasons, actually. There's a way of helping that is real service, and there's a way of helping that's like just makes me feel better about myself. I had a constant grinding fear all the time. It didn't matter if I was in paradise, because I traveled all over the world, and I'd be in paradise, and my fear was even worse when I was on holiday. And now I realize it's because it's a time when I wasn't busy all the time. I was busy from 5 in the morning till 7 at night with great things, exercise, yoga, great business. And then at 7 o'clock at night, I would drink alcohol. So although I had a very healthy lifestyle, I had 4 double whiskeys every night. And I realize now that functional alcoholism was a coping mechanism for me so that I didn't have to think at the time of the day when I could think, and I didn't have to feel.
So this is, I think this is something that a lot of people do. I think a lot of people manage to be busy, and then when they have to be alone with themselves, they look for that one thing that's going to drown it. And it could be a novel, it could be TV, it could be anything, could be our choice of drowning. Okay, so I want to ask you one more question. How did this life of yours, how did it play out in the relationships?
Oh, I had absolutely shocking relationships with men, and many. I was quite popular, but I would go from over a 15-year period. I just had one bad relationship after another. And I chose and stayed with men who were unavailable, actually, emotionally. Some of them were serious sociopaths and misogynists. And the interesting thing is I didn't blame them. Actually, I blamed myself in the relationships. I always thought I was too sensitive. I wanted too much. I kept on saying, Andrea, you can be zen, you can be more peaceful. I think I was trying to change them, and I was kept on thinking there was something wrong with me because these relationships were not working. And when you're in those relationships, they're so chaotic. And so much emotional energy of mine went into managing these relationships because the chaos. So, I mean, self-sabotaging myself is a biggie, a big thing I've had to heal. And doing that through these relationships was a big one, and creating chaos because they're constantly chaotic, those relationships, and they suck all your energy. So and my relationships with women were good. Had lots of friends, but in hindsight, I'd say that some of the friendships have changed the dynamic because I wasn't authentic in them, actually. I wasn't authentic all the time, to be
Because
honest.
you were people pleasing and being what somebody else wanted you to be.
Yeah, I would show up to be who that person felt the most comfortable with, but it's so subconscious, this, Louise. I wasn't consciously doing it. And I have and had amazing people in my life. A few of those friendships haven't survived because I knew when I came to you for coaching, I knew that I had to show up in my relationships authentically. And some relationships can't handle that, and other relationships grow tremendously through it. But the ones that survived, I have such good relationships with now because it's real. And when we can be real, the other person can be real. I mean, I think I do need to mention that I had or have borderline personality disorder. And the interesting thing is I self-diagnosed that in 2014. But people kept on telling me, no, don't label yourself. You're amazing. There's nothing wrong with you. Look at you. You have this incredible life. But I knew that 10 out of 10 of the symptoms that I researched, I had, some of them not so extremely. The oversensitivity, the extreme paranoia, the self-harm. I never tried to cut myself, but I hated myself. So I kept on self-sabotaging in hundreds of different ways. And so because people kept on telling me, no, you're fine, I was like, oh, well, I'm fine. But when I got cancer, one of the things I did besides coming to you quite soon into my journey is that I did a shadow questionnaire from the psychoneuroimmunology book, and it showed me aspects of myself that I did not know existed. For example, a constant dissatisfaction, this empty hole, which came from my abandonment or perceived abandonment as a child in utero, actually. And that abandonment, when people are abandoned or perceived to be abandoned, there's just this empty hole, and it can never be filled with any amount of success, studying, food, alcohol, travel, spirituality. I mean, that was another one of my interesting coping mechanisms, because the fascinating thing about me is my coping mechanisms were so functional. It's scary, actually. And spiritual bypassing was one of them, and the most dangerous, probably, actually. I read so many books, did so many courses, followed so many gurus all over the world, went to a couple of therapists and coaches, and actually things got worse, because the interesting thing is when you want to awaken, you want to be an awake person, so you go seeking and you get information, but you then can't live it. So you know what you know, but you can't live it. And that creates a dissonance in you that is so extremely uncomfortable. It's worse than being asleep, actually. So I also found myself on a spiritual path that said it's about love and light and zen and being peaceful. So every time a difficult emotion showed up for me, I would push it away. I'm like, no, I can't be angry. I shouldn't be ashamed. I've got to be nice and kind and peaceful. And I'd go back to meditating, and the cycle just got worse and worse, actually. And my anxiety got worse because I was so out of kilter. So what psychoneuroimmunology brought to me, and Dr. Bruce Lipton, bless him, I had listened to his stuff for years, but suddenly I got it. My subconscious program was faulty. So on a conscious level, which is only 5 or 10% of the human existence experience, I knew all the stuff. I'd read the books, I'd done the courses, but my subconscious program, the 90%, was running my show. So I realized a huge realization that until I rewire my brain, until I reprogram that faulty program, I will just carry on getting worse and worse. Actually, I was heading for terrible disaster. So by the grace of God, because I opened myself and I said, show me how to rewire my brain. And I couldn't find any information, to be honest, at that stage. Now it seems to be everywhere. And this was only 3.5 years ago. And maybe I wasn't meant to find it because I had to find my own way. So when I asked the divine, what do you want me to do next? The first message I got was throw out every single belief system you have and start again. So I was horrified, but I did it. And it was astounding, the revelations that came to me. Absolutely astounding. How many untruths I had bought into, and misunderstandings about the real spiritual path and about a real life. So I had to now go on a path to understand why my subconscious program was faulty. And because I showed up to clear the way, and then when we do that, what we need comes. So a number of things came. The shadow questionnaire, you came randomly, let's be honest. I met you in your shop a long time before, and I ended up coming to you for coaching. And I realized then that my background, my childhood, my in utero, because my mom was very young when she fell pregnant, a child still, and so she didn't want me, of course. I myself have, I had an abortion because I wasn't married when I fell pregnant, so I have no judgment on my mom, but my mom's attempt to abort me created an abandonment issue right up front. Before I was even born, I wasn't wanted in my eyes. Okay, I completely understand where my mother came from her own difficult background. So that's how I started out. And then my childhood and my experiences reinforced that if my mother doesn't love me, I have no place. I'm not meant to be here. That's how I felt my whole life. No matter what I did or how well I did it, I felt I had no place being here. I could not find meaning and purpose at all. I could not figure out the point of life, and especially my life. So I then started honoring and accepting that background without judging it. And you taught me that very much, is that the way my mother brought me up, and my father played a role in it too, and our whole family dynamic was not good. Not because she didn't want to be good, but she couldn't. So the lack of nurturing on an emotional level, maybe some criticism. I was an adult long before I should have been, because she was very traumatized. So I became her confidant, actually, and at a very young age. And so there were lots of things that built on this baby that got born: criticism, lack of support, and accept. So I think I learned at a very young age that I had to please somebody else to fit in, to be accepted, to get any kind of love. I needed to adapt myself because I've got, as you know me now, I've got a larger than life, loud personality. Yeah, and it's so interesting. I suppressed myself my whole life, actually, till now. And the incredible thing is that it's taken 3.5 years, some really good coaching, and it was you were the person that showed up. It's very important to get professional help at some stage of this journey, because it gets very extreme when you start feeling feelings you've never felt your whole life. So now suppressed feelings, psychoneuroimmunology talks about making us sick, particularly for cancer. If we are suppressing feelings, somewhere down the line, we are going to be in trouble. Because it's feeling the feelings is where the healing lies, not in the suppression. And most of us have been socialized, not just my mother. We were socialized in our age group. I don't even know, maybe even now, to not feel our feelings. We were not encouraged to feel our feelings. We were not encouraged to be authentic. So I had to, over the last 3.5 years, start facing. Now, if you've got cancer, well, look, I don't want to blanket everybody with this. For me, what was lurking, suppressed, was bitterness, resentment. Do you know how hard it is to see that in yourself and to show up for that? Extreme anger. It wasn't even just anger, it was fury. And I had never lost my temper. I had never raised my voice, maybe once or twice in my whole life, to 56. And this extreme anger and fury, yeah, 2 days ago I had it, as I told you. So it's still expressing itself. It was so suppressed. Shame. I had no idea how much shame I was carrying inside of me. And the interesting thing, Louise, is one of my tools I used to heal myself, which came spontaneously, but it is out there. So all the courses and work I'd done in the past did help. Is a visualization, which is a body scan, actually, through every single part of my body with golden sparkles, which bring joy and Christ consciousness and love and healing, because that's where my healing lay. My healing did not lie in green juice. I was already doing that. It did not lie in veganism. Some people's does. Mine lay in finding joy and self-love, actually. So I would do this visualization to heal my cancer, because I had very aggressive cancer sitting at the top of my spine here, and it was terrifying. But the incredible thing is, when I'd have an ache or pain, and I still do it to this day, and I'd do this visualization and I'd send love to that part of my body and golden light. It's incredible how my body started showing up to tell me what was going on. And shame was the first thing that came up in one of those visualizations, just out of the blue. In fact, I saw this skinny little fetus, like a black little gray thing, and she came out of a dark cave. I saw all of this in a visualization. And she was so gray and pasty and miserable and stressed. And like, what is this? And that was shame. She creeped out. It took me so long to get her out of that cave. And oh, I've got goosebumps now. So I've worked on
The shame,
my emotional stuff.
the shame, because you keep on mentioning it, is that the shame about who you subconsciously believed you were, your own unacceptability?
I have no idea, to be honest, Louise, but shame. And Brene Brown talks about this a lot, bless her. She's another person who came my way at the same time you did, and the psychoneuroimmunology. Without shame, we cannot access joy. We cannot access our creativity. And that was the most astounding revelation for me. Here was a person who traveled all over the world, read all the books, did all the spiritual courses and workshops, went to psychologists and coaches. And I never knew that I could feel shame, and I could feel fear, and I could feel anger, and I could feel resentment and bitterness. And in fact, that's the very place where my healing lay. I don't know how I didn't know that. It's astounding, really.
You don't. We just don't. Because it's us fighting these feelings that we have put negative values on, instead of being in balance with it, because our job is to experience them but not let it control us. So you can be angry, but the minute it controls you, or you can not be angry and you let it control you, because when it comes out in all kinds of other things, it's when you get in balance and you don't let it control you. That, and now today is the best you've ever felt in your entire life, no jokes, right? And it's okay to feel all of these feelings.
Yeah, I mean, one of the major revelations, Louise, when I said lots of truths came to me that were astounding, and one of them is that there's dark and light, there's good and there's bad, there's negative emotions, positive emotions. Every single human being has a shadow side, a dark side. Everybody has their stuff. And if we do not integrate it all, accept it, work with it, love ourselves anyway, I have been so astounded that I can be who I am. My bitch, I've got a bitch inside of me, and she rears her head sometimes. And I've got I'm quite outspoken and blah, blah. And the incredible thing is that I have people in my life now, including this amazing man, who just love me that way. And I'm like, I really thought I could not be loved being who I was. So if there's one message people must get, is that please don't buy into this thing that we have to be nice and zen and what is success? That's the other thing. I think the thing that human beings do, and I fell into it, even though I was so spiritual and read so much about self-help, I fell into this terrible trap of doing what I thought I should be doing. I fell into this trap of not showing up to be all of who I was, to not be authentic. I fell into this trap of thinking success looked like this. I have nothing now that I had before. I can't travel anymore. I don't have enough money. I live in a tiny little village. I don't even earn a living, which is terrifying. But I have the best life I've ever had. I have a great man who is a man I would never have met in my previous life. I have people now in my life, including you, by the way, who ride the tag with me. They're okay with me with exactly the way I am. And I've made friends who love me like this. And it's been like, whoa.
Yeah, but you know, Antoinette,
Incredible.
let's put it in perspective for people. It's like this. We have this idea of how we are supposed to live our life. We made that rules for ourselves before we were 7. And now little Miss Princess pitches up and tries and tells us how to live our life with, like you say, absolutism. So you're so severe in your beliefs, and you can look perfect from outside, and you very often will look perfect because your belief system is going to let you either go to perfectionism or to not try. So it's going to be one of the two. And so we have this picture that we are creating, but we're not doing it on purpose because we just want to fit in and belong. That's all we want to do, and we don't even know that. And so
it's so sad.
It looks like we are functioning, and we are working very hard at looking functioning. But inside, if we feel a little bit out of place, if we feel like a round peg in a square hole or a square peg in a round hole, if we always know we are not quite reaching our potential, no matter how successful we are. And it's not about wanting more, it's about feeling that something is off. So we always know, but we are very good at hiding it under the perfect life. And it's very hard to talk to somebody on that road, because you have to walk into that wall. But
it's so sorry. And Louise, one thing I want to say, so many people are suffering from anxiety now. And I learned through a guy called Richard Rohr that extreme anxiety is very often because you're out of alignment with your soul or your soul's purpose. And people just don't want to hear that. So the interesting thing that came to me is I was so spiritual before, but actually had no belief system and no trust in life, in God, in myself. So, and you made me realize just recently on one of these recordings that didn't work, is the journey to God's self, to our highest self, to connection with God. That is how we are born. We are born as that spark of the divine, but all these layers cover it up. And until we unlayer those layers, we just not okay all the time. And so this became a journey of sacred training. And people get astounded when I say that. It's like you got to go to the messy, to the broken, to all these difficult feelings. You know what I went through in the last 2 days, because you've been sharing this journey with me. You have no idea, my anger, my fury, I cried the whole day in coffee shops and at doctor's offices yesterday because I was in such a state, but I knew another layer was unpeeling. I knew a big root was being pulled. So what happens when we go through this journey? We rewire our brains. We create new neural pathways. And then the astounding thing is we open our arms and the butterflies land, the miracles land. Life just works. Whereas in my old life, I was so spiritual and doing all the right things, but I had this net and I was going out there trying to catch these butterflies all the time. And I think that's where a lot of anxiety is coming from now, is that people are not too scared. People don't know what they don't know, because I know I didn't know what I didn't know. So I need to tell people that if you're feeling anxious or even depressed, maybe it's very possible that there's something or if you're sick, what is out of kilter?
I will go further. I'll be very definite about it. If you have an underlying feeling that something is out of kilter, there's unfinished business in your life and you need to get help. Don't even try and do it for yourself because you can't see it. Antoinette, I want to just bring a little bit perspective into this. So there's a lot of people who don't know that we do Facebook Lives every single week, and that you're very brave and very receptive to getting live on-air coaching. So you've become very used to bearing your soul. That's been a journey in itself. And I think maybe we must just mention, to put everything into perspective, that as our first recording, when you actually talked about a lot of stuff that you don't normally talk about, have really opened up a lot of emotions. And that's why we waited another 4 days and a lot of to and fro before we could actually do this recording today from a place where you are peaceful.
Yeah, I think that because perfectionism and things like that are also habits that die hard, actually. Perfectionism and control and fear of abandonment, it all comes down to that for me. If I drill down through everything, my anxiety about showing up here and not being perfect, it all drills down to the fear of being judged. Why am I scared of being judged? Because then I'll be abandoned and I won't be liked. Won't be liked and I'll be abandoned. So, and so many things like imposter syndrome and all of that, So thank you, Louise, for taking me on this journey, dragging me actually, dragging me onto lives where we started late, or there was a noise, or I didn't show up perfectly, and you going, it's okay, Antoinette, it's okay to be imperfect. Actually, that's where the value lies. And also, it's okay to show up with your fear. Actually, Elizabeth Gilbert wrote that beautifully in her book, The Big Magic. Take your fear with you in the suitcase, but don't let it run the show. And if anybody listening to this now knew how much fear and anxiety I had to go through to show up for every single one of those things, actually, even today, I was nervous, people, because I'm so scared I'm going to mess up, I won't be good enough, or I won't be authentic. Well, who do I think I am going out there, giving something to people? Who do I think I am? But I think I've come through the other side, and only today, actually. So
I think, look, we always do this thing where we show up and we're being authentic. And just the fact that we are being authentic about exactly where we are at this moment is a thing that lets other people see it's okay. It's okay for us to be triggered and messy and need to work through it and get to a new level and then have a new trigger and you've got to work through it again. I'm messy for a little bit and you get to our side and you just get better and better and better all the time. But sometimes the stuff that comes at you, they can be really big. And so the really big ones are the ones that we have to go through. And the really big ones are always going to be connected to our mothers and to our relationships. And they are hard to get through because they are speaking to the heart of us. It's never going to be easy.
That's why a good coach, but you have to be discerning when you go to a therapist or a coach. But once again, Louise, what this journey has taught me, if we listen to our intuition, we are led to the right people, places, coaches. And the problem is we don't, because our ego tries to keep us safe and loved. So the ego is telling us, and our upbringing and our socialization and our learning is telling us, do it this way or go that route. Like I had not touched allopathic medicine for 32 years. And my intuition kept on telling me to do chemo when I got cancer. And I was horrified. But I couldn't ignore it. It wanted chemo. And chemo, believe it or not, was a major part of my healing. And we probably don't have time to go into that. So I would, to listen to our intuition is the most important. So you'll know whether a coach or a process, don't listen to your head. The major outcome of this journey is to get to a place where we know what's right for us, because what's right for me is also different for you.
You know, Antoinette, I want to just say something about this, what you say, you have to get a good coach. I want to give people a hint what to do. If you get somebody who just gives you your problem and they leave you be, or they let you sit there for 3-4 months without you making a move, leave.
Yes.
If you are just sitting there and talking about how you're feeling, leave. That is unfortunately too many people do that.
Or if they give you a quick fix, because honestly, people that go do this process, or there are many things that can help us. I mean, but there's no quick fixes. Yeah, and just sitting there listening is never going to.
But I'm going to argue with you about this, because I have a lot of quick fixes. And
do you?
I do. Antoinette, there's not a single person who walk out of my rooms without having a tool from day one. And so this is what I was trying to say was, so what I was trying to say is, if you go to somebody who doesn't give you a tool at the same time as they tell you what your problem is, run. It's no good for us to know what our problems are. We are supposed to get tools to fix them. If anybody thinks that all of those wisdom is sitting inside us, it's not. We have to learn tools because our parents didn't have them, so they messed up. Even although they tried the best they could, they didn't have tools, they couldn't give us tools. You have to go and find yourself a coach who has those tools. Go. They don't give you tools, they just give you a problem, run. And
You're right, Louise.
I've seen that myself, because I went to 5 psychologists, and 4 of them, well, either I eventually learned how to project myself as perfect, and so they either gave me a problem, and then I was sitting there dumbstruck, like, what do I do now? Oh, I've been abandoned. What do I do now? You know, nothing, 0 tools. Or they bought my story. But the last one helped me, because I was doing adult child work, which we haven't talked about at all. And she used that, and she gave me the tools that I needed. So it was brilliant.
And I think that the strength in you is that you can shine a light on what's happening, because honestly, on this journey, half of the problem is we can't see what we can't see. We can't see our role in this. We can't see how we're creating this difficult life for ourselves. We can't see where we're out of kilter. And you get into that very fast. I have to give you credit. I have to move forward. But when I look back on it, I mean, of course, I don't want to drink a lot of whiskey and love myself when I got a headache. But it was such a major turning point for me, Louise. You have no idea, to know that I could love myself and be okay, even if I did drink too much, or I was rude, or I was loud, or it's okay. It's a journey. And I'm showing up to try my best. You keep on bringing me back to that. Healing is a journey, and I've come so far, but people like me look at what we've messed up all the time, and we look at what we haven't done and how bad we are. And I've realized as well, I'm not half as bad as I think I am. I'm just so hard on myself.
Okay,
so if someone can shine a light on your role in it, but with compassion, which you do, can shine a light on your past without dwelling in that past, because without going back to what hurt us and brought us to our woundedness, how do we heal? And then tools. Yeah. And by the way, if I can change, anybody can. Borderline personality, I had it pretty hard and extreme. I had cancer, and here I am, the best I've ever been in my whole life. So don't wait till you're nearly 60 and you get cancer.
So I'll do
Sorry,
the
Louise.
summary of the comparison between adult child syndrome and borderline personality disorder, because it's so important. Because the one, which is the borderline personality, which is the one which is said to be hard to cure, is the one that gets the most attention, and the one that should be getting the attention is adult child syndrome, because they are the same.
Mm-hmm.
But borderline personality disorder is just the more extreme manifestation of it. It is going to be the more intense emotional reactions are going to come because of the hurt that was more intense. And so you can be diagnosed on a very wide scale. And normally, if you have to self-diagnose, it means that you still fit into society very well. You know, you haven't been burnt with cigarettes as a baby or something like that, you know. But
Yes.
the effect is the same. Both adult child syndrome and borderline personality disorder is because of our childhood wounds. And so 70 to 80% of us are walking around with adult child syndrome, which is our coping tools, which we learned up to the age of 7. And when we start doing this work, the healing is amazing. That is why I want to keep on highlighting it so that more people become aware that we've got a real help and not go to the devastation, which is borderline personality disorder. Yes, if you have a severe degree, you have to really commit to it. And you're going to hate your therapist some sooner or later down the line, because they're going to have to be honest with you. But if you persevere and you stay with it, you too can get out of it. But most people don't have to go to that severeness. They just have to become aware of all the coping tools that they've been carrying with themselves, and you don't need it, and neutralize your triggers and work through your childhood hurt, and then you are fine. It doesn't need to be such an extreme process. So I do want to give people hope. I think it's so important to give people hope. But also
That's why I said, absolutely, Louise, if I can do it, anyone can, because I've had to deal with self-hatred that's extreme, with oversensitivity that's extreme, with, I mean, actually my borderline personality is the hardest thing. Okay, let's not label it, but I've had to, my lack of self-confidence, actually, my the way I've sabotaged myself. So if we have to be aware, and we have to have some level of courage to show up to feel those things and have compassion with ourselves, and then use tools to heal them. And it's possible. Yes, there is such hope. I am very far into recovery, and maybe even recovered, actually.
But I think today,
In 3.5
honestly,
years.
no, I know it because you have tackled the big M, which is the mother issue. I know.
What?
You've tackled the big M, which is the mother issue. And when we tackle that one, for everyone, there is amazing healing. So, yeah, and we'll talk more about it. But I think we want to finish on this note of hope. And I think it's a good place to stop. Thank you for being so transparent, like always, transparent and brave.
Thank you. Well, you've been a major part of my healing journey, so thank you. And thank you everyone who's shown up here, because it means you're going to be going on this journey, or you are on this journey.
Yeah, love it.